in that 1 second that it's taking that
By
thing
the time
to
it
get a
turns
voice,
on,
it's gone.
the voice is gone. So you don't want to use the
Right.
auto method. It takes a lot. Now, one of the things that kind of separate us from other groups is we use probably 3 times more audio than other groups do. I personally believe that this is like anything else you do. The bigger net you cast, the more fish you're going to catch.
Exactly.
So we try to cast as big an audio net. It makes a lot more work for us, but it does greatly increase our results. Once we have recorded the audio tracks on our investigation, we upload the files onto our computers, and we use software. I don't know if I should promote the brand name, but we use a well-known audio software that we can actually put the audio file onto the computer and see it as a spectrogram. That way, when we're listening, we can watch what we're looking at, and if we think we hear a voice, we can go back and look at the exact spike and even the frequency of the voice in many cases.
Well, that's a good point you should bring up maybe too, is most of the EVPs are caught in a frequency that are not in the human range.
Yeah,
Right.
most EVPs are at a frequency which is a different frequency than the human voice typically is. That's important to know. Which is another theory some have came up with for why you can't hear them. Sometimes it's said that they're even at a frequency below human hearing. But that is more of an audio voice that is recorded paranormally than it is an EVP. Because as I said, an EVP is an electronic voice.
Something else I might want to bring up is that when we're having an EVP session, we are constantly, if our stomach growls, we're going to say, my stomach growls.
This is very important.
We're going to say, I whispered.
Oh,
Or
car outside.
car outside. But we know
Because
absolutely.
a lot of cars starting up when they're giving it the gas and you're getting that little revving can sound like a growl
Yeah,
or
believe
a
it or not,
groan.
you can hear a motorcycle off in the distance, and when you heard it in the home, you knew it was a motorcycle, but on the audio track, it sounds like somebody's going, "Ugh."
And you might
So
have
it's-
just said, give me a sign.
Right.
Yeah,
So
and-
it's extremely important when we're doing our review that we've made those notes. So
On
that
the
way
audio.
we know, okay, that was just
And
a
for
natural
us to talk in a natural
explanation.
tone, don't try to whisper.
Yeah, this
Because it's
is,
really hard to pick up.
this is, and these guys will tell you, my biggest rule, and this is one that will flare me up in a heartbeat.
Yes.
Absolutely no whispering.
No whispering.
Whispering is strictly off limits on an investigation. However, you have to be realistic. If someone slips, because it's just polite when someone else is talking to like maybe lean over to someone and say, can you hand me that under your breath? If that ever happens on an investigation, immediately the investigator will say, I just whispered, or I spoke under my breath. That way no one can make the mistake. So when you do that, and you do that diligently, you can almost be dead certain that anything you capture is paranormal. The next thing I'll go over, this is a very simple, single pole, cheap model, but it does some very good tricks. This is it's a Gauss master. It is a EMF detector. This one's single pole. That means it only records what is directly in front of it. Multi-pole meters will record in all directions. This is useful for, you find a location in a home, if you're investigating a house. These are really good outdoors, where you want to find a location where there is no interference from the electromagnetic field. The electromagnetic field being generated by electronic devices, various other sources in the environment, ceiling fans, stereo systems, anything generates them. But the important thing to remember is the strength of the electromagnetic field generated by electronics is proportional to the amps and voltage. What I mean by that is it's constant. So what this meter does is it sounds an alarm, a buzz alarm. And unfortunately my battery's dead right now, so I can't show you that. But it's a range from a 0 to 10. That's the calibration. So if I walk up to that stereo and turn this meter on, and it's reading a 3, it will read a 3. It'll hum constantly at a 3. As I pull away, it rapidly decreases.
It's approximately what, maybe 2 foot. Most EMF
Yeah.
fields dissipate within
Right.
2 feet.
The electromagnetic field dissipates rapidly as you move from the source. So knowing those facts, an investigator can find a location where there is
Baseline reading.
a base reading of, I like to keep it below a 3 if we're going to use this for any accuracy.
Serious.
Right, so you find a spot, you sit down, and you go all over that area in every direction, because it's a single pole. And you make sure there's no field anywhere around you.
And this is how a lot of dance moves are made up.
Exactly. This is how breakdancing was invented. However, what this will do is, once you find out, okay, there's nothing around me that can interfere, the electromagnetic field generated from the electronic devices won't make this spike. So when you get a spike, it's anomalous, and by that I mean I can't guarantee, no one can, that
No.
is a ghost, but it isn't explainable. And so it stands to reason when you're asking yes and no questions and you get this meter to spike for no apparent
Well,
reason.
it might be good to also note that a lot of people are like, well, it's picking up the energy from the sun. You might want to explain that
Yes,
this will not do
this
that.
one won't do that. It's not that advanced. Also, those are few and far between anyway. You wouldn't find magnetic switches in the electromagnetic field of the Earth or of the sun 75 times a night. And
Right.
certainly not in direct cadence with your questions, such as the Wampy House. I think that's a very good example of an investigation we did with that. All right, however, so that's the EMF. I had another point to make that slipped my mind, but that's it in a nutshell. This device looks like a satellite dish. It's got a parabolic microphone. Also, a relatively inexpensive piece of equipment.
But very handy and
Yes.
to have it
Extremely.
possibly. Yeah.
The point of this, go ahead.
Extremely handy because of the what it does, essentially.
Right. What this makes it possible to do is typically when you do EVP, you record, you have to go back and listen to find an EVP. With this device, a set of headphones plugs into here that you can wear, and you can plug the recorder into it through here and amplify up to 40 decibels what you're hearing through this microphone. Therefore, the circuit that's being recorded is being passed through the headphones, so you can listen in real time. So if there's an EVP, you can hear it.
And essentially, it's like what people hold on, a football
On the side of the
field.
football
So
lines.
that way they can hear all the sounds on the field. It's magnified,
At
Right.
one investigation that stands to mind would be the old Dorchester Club. Ron was operating this,
Exactly.
and I asked if it was messing with my camera because I couldn't get my camera to work, and
I actually heard it through there,
say no.
and going back over the evidence later on,
There
sure
it
enough.
was, yeah, and that's on our website, I believe. If not, we'll get it up on there. So that's this device. You certainly don't look the coolest when you're holding it, but it definitely,
Yeah.
it definitely is a very useful device. This device is an infrared